where the Browns beat the Ravens 13-3 at home. Um, Once again, this is BrownsCast, part of the Evergreen Podcast Network, and we're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. For first-time depositors, enter in the code WFNY at checkout, and Underdog will match up your deposit for $100. Underdog is a great platform for DFS salary system. There are tons of game types, drafts, and sports, different sports every night. Don't forget to use WFNY at checkout for your first-time deposit match up to $100. That's Underdog. Okay, I'm your host, Joe Gilbert, and I'm once again back with Taylor Jedrzejek. Taylor, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. It's a nice Sunday morning where I
don't have to get ready.
Yeah, it's nice playing on Saturdays.
It is, yeah, and we'll do it again next week too. So, okay, so the Browns won 13-3. It wasn't a pretty game. I would say
it was a game.
It was definitely a game. Yeah. What's your just initial thoughts on the kind of the game?
Well, I didn't obviously see every play. Last night I was out actually at my father-in-law's birthday celebration at a Topgolf. So I had the game on a TV in the bay, and there'd be plays that I missed. I didn't have sound, so I watched it again this morning, the condensed version, and the thing that I think I was most impressed with is it felt like the run game found its lane again. There wasn't, like, the 143 yards wasn't just made up of a couple, like, 30-yard runs.
Right.
They were getting good gains for most of the game, and against that defense, that's a positive sign that maybe they've found plays that work for this offensive line the way it's currently constructed. It was nice to see Nick Chubb have lanes again. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Even though he got robbed of a 100-yard game against the Ravens. I also was impressed by the defense in that they finally kind of played the bend but don't break the way that defenses that play that way need to. They forced turnovers in the red zone. They blocked a field goal. They forced a turnover near midfield. Yes, they give up 200 yards on the ground and 7 yards per carry. Neither of those are good things. But they only gave up 3 points. So you can kind of take that for what you want. I saw a defense that, while still struggling to stop the run, did enough, and they were engaged in the game. Even when they were giving up big chunks of yards on the ground, they stayed engaged.
Right.
And this isn't a commendation of Joe Woods. I think most of the good things that happened for the defense yesterday were actually just incredible individual efforts. John Johnson on the fourth down stop and on the fumble causation and recovery. Denzel Ward on the interception, and then the other almost interception at the end of the game. Like, these are just incredible individual efforts that can kind of mask the deficiencies that maybe the scheme has.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Go ahead.
Oh, and my other thing is, I know Twitter was full of Cade York hate last night. I understand where it's deserved. His first 3 kicks were really good. Mm-hmm. His fourth kick was abysmal again. I don't know why he keeps doing that. Right. Obviously, as Jay Feely said a couple weeks ago, it's his plant foot technique. But
yeah, it looked bad again too. Yeah.
The last kick, I think, that looked like it was more wind affected than anything.
I would think so too. Yeah.
Yeah, like that kick actually, like, it looked like an actual NFL kick. It just got pushed by the wind. So, like, the people who think we should cut Cade York, I think you should look at the rest of Andrew Berry's draft classes and realize that he doesn't give up on guys easily.
Yeah.
And you're not going to spend fourth round capital on a guy and give up on him after one season.
Right.
And how many kickers have we had in the last 10 years that we've brought in as young guys? They've struggled, we cut, and then they go become great kickers somewhere else.
Right.
Look what Zane Gonzalez did.
Yeah.
He became really good in Arizona. So, like, I don't think we should give up on him just yet. I think he needs a special teams coordinator that can actually coach kicking, because it doesn't seem like he's getting the coaching that he needs.
He is not.
So let's get him a special teams coordinator that knows how to coach kicking. I don't care if it's Phil Dawson. Just bring someone in that can help him fix his technique, and I think you have something there.
Yeah. You hit on everything here. So I'll start with Cade because we're just talking about him. Yeah, I think someone pointed out that I forget who it was on Twitter, but Phil Dawson was, I think, 60% or something like that in his rookie year. So it's something, and as you said, we've seen so many rookies here struggle and then go off somewhere and do well.
Yeah, even Chase McLaughlin's looking decent in Indy this year.
Yeah, and
Greg Joseph made a game-winning kick yesterday.
Yeah, that was the guy I was going to bring up. Yeah, it just, I think they just need a new coach, man. Like, if Jay Feely could find it watching the film for probably 10 minutes, it probably took him to figure out what the problem was. Like, and then once he pointed it out, I've been watching it, and like that one, the first miss, he was his leg was like almost diagonal. Like, he was way off balance, and you can see why he missed it. Like, it just seems like that could be an easy coaching fix. Like, he's got the talent. He's got the talent. Like, that leg is just. It just seems like they need to get somebody in there that can work with them. So I'm not really down on him. It's frustrating that he doesn't have any help. It seems like.
No, and like, not only is he not getting the coaching, I think it seems like he doesn't necessarily trust his line as much as he should, because he's had so many blocked.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah, I think it's just and then that just on top of things, it's his rookie year. He's probably in his head.
Yeah.
That he's struggling like this because those first two kicks were really good, right down the middle.
And even his extra point kick was good. Like, all of those kicks looked good, and then he came out and shanked one off the tee box.
Yeah, right, yeah. So that's basically what I thought. Overall on special teams, we'll start there. What did we say before in the pregame show? We said, "Don't get crushed by Baltimore," and we didn't. We basically tied them on special teams. They had two field goal miss. We did too, and other than
they had one extra. They had the muffed punt early in the game, so theoretically we were probably even better than them on special teams.
Yeah,
they kept bringing kicks out of the end zone and ending short of the 20.
Yeah, we won on that one. So and I guess there was a penalty on that one, but the return was good. But it was they outplayed them on special teams, and that was the key. Defensively, so I have a mixed bag thoughts on that.
Hard to say it was a good performance. It was it got the job done.
It got the job done, yes. Yeah. So defensively, I thought the pass defense was pretty good overall for most of the game. Pass rush was getting there, so that they did pretty well. The run defense was terrible, but
I mean,
there wasn't. Talked about it. We talked about it before the game, though. Like, there wasn't much you could do. Like, you lost all your linebackers. Your interior defensive line is just terrible already.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're having Jordan Kunasek trying to fill run gaps against J.K. Dobbins, like the one of the long runs, Kunasek was right there to make the tackle, and he just he whiffed.
Yeah.
like that's why these guys are so far down the depth chart. Like, it's just the truth of it.
Yeah, I
Um,
definitely agree with that. Yeah, it's you couldn't like. There's stuff you can't really blame Joe Woods on that one. Like, I think he just is out of guys right now
yeah, I mean
on that.
Tay Davis is getting playing time.
Right.
Like, I don't even know
Um,
who Jermaine Carter is.
oh, I know, right? Yeah, they were putting some
I'm
guys
looking
out
at the
there.
box score right now, and I'm like, this is a preseason stat sheet.
Right. The thing I thought I thought the Ravens offense coordinator had the worst game of I've ever seen, quite frankly. Um, how many times he threw? Let's see. Looking at the
30
box
times.
score, 30 times, and his running backs rushed 20 times, and they both. So Dobbins had 9.6 yards per carry, and Gus Edwards had 7.9. I I was it was blowing my mind that they just stopped running, giving the ball to him. They would do other runs with like Tyler Huntley, but that wasn't being successful. The
No.
corners were actually playing well on the edges, play to like defend them on those read plays where he kind of took it to the edge. But like they just didn't hand. There was that one drive where Dobbins, he probably had like 60 or 70 yards on the drive, and then they just stopped doing it once they got in close to the red zone. That was the key. It was like they just couldn't finish drives because they somehow forgot that they had great running backs that were just killing this
Yeah.
defense.
Yeah.
It was like for some, I don't know how, but I think Joe Woods actually outcoached somebody. But I don't think it was his. I don't think it was his doing.
No, yeah.
I think it was
Greg Roman has been drawing the ire of the
yeah,
Ravens fans that I know all season. I he he seems to have outlived his
yeah,
usefulness there.
definitely because
I
that
think
was
the
god awful.
league has mostly caught up to it, especially when
Yeah,
you don't have Lamar.
right. Yeah,
Lamar is the whole
cheat
thing that makes
code.
that offense work.
Right,
And when you don't have Lamar, what's like that
right.
offense is not an NFL offense
No, that
because they
was
don't have receivers that they can trust.
yeah,
And if they're playing a run defense that actually knows what it's doing and doesn't have preseason linebackers out there, although I would say Deion Jones played pretty well
he
yesterday. I
did.
think he made some
Yeah,
good plays.
right.
But he's the only one that I would. I mean, Tony Fields has made some plays, but I didn't see him a whole lot, and
No,
I didn't see him a whole lot last night.
Deion Jones is basically the only NFL linebacker on the team right now
Yeah,
that should be out there.
which is not where that team needs to be.
Right.
Um, but
Yeah,
John Johnson probably had his best game of the year.
he did. Yeah.
Both coverage and tackling. I mean, he got run over once, but
Yeah.
Gus
It's
Edwards is a
first.
large man.
I think it was
So
his first drive. He had a rough one. I think he had two missed tackles, but
yeah, Gus Edwards is a large human being.
he really is. Yes. But yeah, I think it was a good performance because the Browns did their job. They didn't let them finish their drives. I was right in the recap yesterday. They had 2 turnovers, 3 turnovers on downs, and then 2 missed field goals. Like that's incredible.
Yeah,
Obviously, some of it was aided by the Ravens' just inability to finish drives, but they did make some plays, as you said, that
yeah. I mean,
came up clutch.
of those five, or how many? Let's see. 2 turnovers, 3 turnovers on downs, and 2 missed field goals. They blocked one of them, so they made a
Yeah,
play on that. They
yeah.
picked
So
one. They
3 of them
picked a pass off, so they made a play on that. They caused the
fumbled.
fumble. They made a play on that. They John Johnson made a really good stop on a 300-pound fullback on fourth down.
Yeah,
So they made it like they made the plays.
yeah.
They made the plays to get them off the field. They just couldn't get them off the field on like a normal in a normal sense.
Right, right. Yeah, they were. It was a weird game.
Yeah, like when I pulled up the box score after the game, I I was surprised to see that the Browns were outgained by 40 yards.
Right.
I didn't realize that the Ravens also threw for 120.
Right. Yeah. It was a very odd game, and they shouldn't have passed that much. They didn't need to. Like they were just gashing the Browns defense, and for some reason they just did not want to hand it off to the running backs. So yeah, that was basically my thoughts on the defense. They played well overall. They did their job, but they were really aided by the terrible play calling and kind of ineptitude of the Ravens offense. But hey, you got to do what you got to do. You got to take advantage, and they did.
Yeah.
So I can't take anything against them. Offensively, let's get to the offense. Yeah, it was really nice to see just the run game get going, especially second half. It seemed like they're maybe wearing down the Ravens defense. It looked like Nick
Some of
Chubb.
that was definitely Calais Campbell leaving.
True, that is definitely that. That is definitely true. That when
That's
that guy's
definitely
off,
helpful for a run game.
yes, when you don't have a 6'10" or 6'8" guy out the field. Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely we'll talk we kind of talked about this already, but a lot of this was aided by the Ravens just not playing well. They didn't play well at all. But the Browns took advantage, so that we've seen in years past where they just would not take advantage of these things.
Yeah. When a team is beating itself, the Browns in the past would beat themselves harder.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah, it was, and I have to say, the offense, they did beat themselves a lot too. They could have had the game closed out a lot earlier than they did.
yeah, I mean it should have easily been 19-3.
Yeah,
They got down in the red zone a lot at the end of the game. Maybe if Watson doesn't take that sack that leads
yeah,
to the 46-yard field goal that that
had
York
no chance.
sent to Illyria. But they looked it looked like an offensive unit that was cohesive for the first time since Watson's been playing. I thought Watson looked pretty good throwing the ball. He looked decisive.
Yeah,
He wasn't second guessing his reads. He was throwing the reads that were open. He was running when he needed to. There was a couple times where I thought he should have run and didn't. There was the throw on 3rd and 1 at the 6 that he probably could have dove for the first down, but he threw it out of bounds right past Michael Woods, who'd stopped running.
yeah.
Um,
That kind of leads me to that kind of is one of those. I think if he was playing all year, that would have been completed or something. Yeah. It would have been a good play at least because Michael Woods has been in and out of the lineup.
Yeah.
And we already obviously know Deshaun Watson is it's the third game now. So, I definitely agree. I think he played pretty well.
The stats don't really show it. I mean, 18 of 28 for 161. I mean, he didn't have a turnover. That's first time he hasn't had a turnover.
That was key, and we talked about it. We couldn't have turnovers against Baltimore. I thought they started. He had a couple drives where they looked like he was starting to kind of get it downfield more. But I still think I don't know if it's Stefanski or if it's just Deshaun not seeing it yet. I would have to watch the all 22 to figure that out, but it just doesn't seem like they're fully kind of opening up the offense yet, which is fine. It's his third game of his Browns career, so can't take anything against that. But I think I think that was just the beginning of maybe kind of realizing what he had, because he looked great. There wasn't really that many inaccurate throws that were like.
No, there was one that was behind Cooper, but other than that, on a crossing route. But I can't think of any other notable ones that were.
Yeah.
Maybe that dump off to Chubb, running up the sideline. He missed him a little bit. Chubb had a rough game as a receiver.
He did.
He dropped
I,
both of his targets.
I think we have our answer of why he doesn't go in on passing downs.
Yeah, he dropped both of his targets.
If it's not right securely in his grasp, like he's not catching that. Like
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the pass wasn't bad. Like it was a little bit out front, but it was one of like he was leading him. But I think it was just one of those like Chubb is the guy who needs to like catch it and then run. I don't think
Yeah,
he's the guy that can catch it on the run.
yeah.
But yeah, that was interesting. I thought Deshaun really used his legs well overall in the game.
Yeah, he looks more comfortable. Like he understands where to maybe get out now. I
Yeah,
think against the Texans, he didn't understand, like didn't fully feel where his hole was going to be to get out, his escape
right.
route, and it looked like he had more comfort in finding an escape route yet last night.
Yeah, just
Um,
especially on that the one that comes to mind most is that third down play. I think it was like what 3rd and 10 or something like that.
yeah,
He ran. He basically just got out of there really quickly. He dropped back and then saw a hole right in the middle and ran. It was probably one of his top plays of the game. That one comes to mind. And then he kind of skirted to the sideline on plays and got some completion, so that was nice to see. Yeah, I thought he just seems he's getting more comfortable. It seems like.
yeah. I mean, you're starting to see more and more glimpses of what he was. I mean, uh, it doesn't really feel like it when you look at the box score, but you still have to consider that the Ravens' defense is pretty good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's probably the best defense you'll face the rest of the year.
Yeah,
Well, Pittsburgh maybe. I don't know. You'll see.
I don't know.
Who the heck?
Pittsburgh keeps giving up yards too.
I know. Right.
um, but I don't think it was a bad performance from the offense. They needed more. They just couldn't convert on scoring opportunities that would have put this game way out of reach much sooner.
Yeah. Both
Like
offenses couldn't really finish.
when John Johnson got the fumble right after they scored their touchdown, making it 20-3 at that point probably ends the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And they punted, right?
that was the frustrating drive for me, like because you have a chance to end the game at that point and they end up punting with a drive that started at what, the 38.
Yeah.
So like that was one of the frustrating drives. They had some other 3-and-out drives that were frustrating. I looked it up. The Ravens only punted once last night, which doesn't
Yeah.
feel great, but
I know. And they just
they also didn't score
they
any touchdowns, so
they had what
balances out.
7 drives that ended in a turnover on downs or a missed field goal. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a weird game. We kind of talked about it in the pregame show. It's gonna be a weird game. Uh, quarterback, their quarterback's a backup. Browns are trying to get comfortable with their new quarterback. The weather was going to be a issue, but it really didn't
The
become
weather
one.
didn't really seem like it was that big of an issue.
No, it didn't look too windy as we thought it would. I guess it was probably tricky for field goals, but it didn't really affect um, the passing game or anything like that we thought we maybe would see.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. I wrote like they just took care of business. They did what they were supposed to do. They beat a backup quarterback. Um, they were the more talented team, and they took advantage and won. So like you
Yeah.
can't really take much further from this game. I think, especially on defense, I don't think you take anything from it.
No, and,
But
and I think obviously there's going to be people who look at this game and say this was ugly. They should have won anyway, but they didn't deserve to.
yeah,
But these were games in the past that plagued the Browns' existence.
yeah,
Not being able to beat teams you're supposed to.
exactly. Yeah,
And I think only well, twice this year they've not beaten the team they were supposed to. They
right.
didn't beat they didn't beat the Jets, even though they like 1,217 times out of 1,218 they would have, and they didn't beat the Falcons. The rest of the games that they were supposed to win, I think they did. So that's it's a step. I mean, it's a small step, but that's a step. And they have another game that they're supposed to win next week.
Yeah.
So
it's basically going to be similar to this game. That team doesn't really have an offense right now. Dalton. Is it Dalton now? I think it's Dalton.
Yeah, it's Andy Dalton.
Yeah. So we'll get to that later in the week. But yeah, it's they did what they had to do and they got the W, and that's all you can ask for. It wasn't pretty, but sometimes in the NFL you got to win ugly. Just look at the Vikings.
Yeah, that wasn't a pretty win.
No,
it was a pretty half.
Right, they got absolutely rolled in 2 quarters, and then
they had a punt block and a pick six and a half.
Yeah,
and they won the game.
They won the game. I would guess if you had one special teams and one defensive touchdown, I wonder what the probability is your team is winning. You would think it'd be really high, but those are your Indianapolis Colts there.
I mean, generally, when you have a 33-point lead, you don't lose.
Right, exactly.
Like when you're up 5 possessions, you don't lose.
Well, no team has ever done that.
Yeah,
that was the biggest comeback. So, it was. I think Saturday's games were just kind of besides the Buffalo game, but.
Even that game kind of got weird at the end because it went from normal game to it's a blizzard now.
True. Yeah, that definitely. Yeah.
It went 0 to 100 real quick.
Yeah. It's not much else to say about it, but it was good to see they did what they had to do, and we got the W. They're 6-8, still pretty much out of the playoff race, but
they are on life support.
Yeah, I guess there's like a little bit of you gotta win out and then get quite a bit of help.
Hold on,
I think I did.
I'm gonna see. I'm gonna see what they need today.
I did the playoff predictor, so it's basically you got to watch the Ravens for the rest of the year, and then the Jets. I think
you need. I think it's the Jets and the Patriots because I'm not sure that you can really catch the Ravens unless they lose out.
True. Which they could if Lamar's not healthy enough.
Theoretically, they could.
Yeah. And then if the Chargers would be the other team to kind of watch out for, but I think they're kind of turning it on now. So I'm not sure if you can catch the Chargers.
Yeah, the games that the Browns would need today is they would need the Lions to beat the Jets, the Raiders to beat the Patriots,
Lions are playing well,
and the Titans to beat the Chargers.
That could be a coin flip.
The Titans to beat the Chargers feels.
Who are the Patriots playing?
Patriots playing the Raiders.
Okay.
The Raiders don't play bad; they just don't win.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's like they're the I can't imagine what being a fan of that team feels like.
Raiders and the Titans are pretty similar too. They can beat anybody, but then they can just lose to anybody.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a real it's not a really realistic kind of situation, but anything can happen in the NFL. And I just remember from the first time the Browns were in the playoffs in what year was that? 2020?
2002. Yeah, they needed like everything to go right.
Yeah. Yeah, on the last day, and I think it was the final one was like the Jets beating. I forget what team it was, but it was some like unrealistic kind of situation, and they did. So anything can happen in the NFL, and we'll see. But
yeah, as of right now, they have a 4% chance to make the playoffs.
So you're saying there's a chance?
It's not dead, but it's not really living either.
No, yeah, but
the playoffs they have like 7 beats per minute on their heart monitor.
As of now, our kind of looking at it is trying to just get Deshaun Watson ready. Is basically what I'm thinking. Until there's like a more of a gleam of hope.
Yeah, if the Lions, Raiders, and Titans all win today, they're at 13.
13%.
13%. If the Cowboys beat the Jaguars and if somehow the Bucks beat the Bengals, it goes up to 16.
Yeah.
So if the Bengals win, it stays at 13. So, I mean, those aren't unlikely outcomes. I don't necessarily trust the Titans or the Raiders to win a football game.
No.
But
definitely not the Bucks.
If
yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Next couple weeks will tell us. I think I'll start looking I'll start looking at the playoffs if it's like 2 weeks to go and there's like 30%.
I mean, if they win next week, I think the talk can happen. I think you can start to look at it, but I mean, until there's 7 teams with 9 wins, the Browns have a shot.
Right.
So.
Yeah, but I really think it's going to come down to that Jets game.
Oh yeah, it's going to.
It's going to come down. Like the Jets, it's probably going to be it's all going to be 9-8. I don't know what the kind of the playoff breaking tiebreakers are, but I feel like it's going to be like the Jets and the Browns are tied, and that game kind of decides it.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's going to be.
Yeah, but I was having this discussion with someone last night, and this can kind of be because we're kind of going off on a tangent that this can be kind of how we close it. If this team finishes 9-8 and misses, how do we view the season? I don't want to call it a failure, but I don't think it would be a failure. I don't think it would necessarily be a success. But there's a lot of good feelings that I think would come maybe in February when you look back at it and you realize you won 6 of your last 7.
Yeah.
And you're going into a season with a quarterback that can be
5 of the 6 games.
Can be the answer.
Right.
I think there's some good that you can take of that. And finishing above 500 as a Browns team is not something that comes around very often.
Nothing to throw around, yeah.
Yeah. So, you take those.
Right.
But, I mean, I would view it as a mild, like slightly above neutral. It wouldn't necessarily be a nothing, but I wouldn't call it a success, but I definitely wouldn't call it a failure.
Right. I would agree with that. Yeah. I always said it was once the 11 games came down, it was sort of like if they didn't play really well during the 11 games, it was pretty much a throwaway season. But it coming out of it as 9-8, that would be okay, especially if your franchise quarterback won 5 of the 6 games in a stretch. That's kind of exciting. Kind of gets your hopes up for the next year.
You also to do that, you would also have swept the Steelers, gone 4-2 in division.
That's probably the biggest thing I would be taking out of this season. If they're coming out if they beat Pittsburgh 4-2, that's when's the last time they've done that? Like that's
no, I think even the year they went to the playoffs, they were 3-3 in division.
Right? Yeah, 4-2. Like if you're winning the division slate of games, like that's nothing to scoff at. Like it's pretty good. So it would be disappointing, obviously, if we're like 1 game out.
Yeah, if you miss the playoffs on a Jets tiebreaker, that would suck.
That's why I'm hoping one of these teams, like 2 of the AFC wildcard teams, just kind of go off and like we're out of it like 2 weeks or like something like that. But like if they're out like because of a tiebreaker, oh my god, that's gonna be disappointing. But I think once we get into the off season further down, you'll feel a little bit better. But yeah, that's going to be rough if that is the game
I
that
mean,
kind of
do we really want
decides.
this defense to be in the playoffs?
That's true.
I mean,
That is
yes, I
very
want to
true.
make the playoffs, but like,
Especially when run game is important in the
do,
in the
do
playoffs.
do we want to go? Do we want to have a wild card game in Kansas City
Oh God, yeah.
or
No, thank you.
Cincinnati? Like,
No, thank you. I would like to get out of this season as soon as possible to get these the defensive coordinator and special teams coordinator out of here. But
yes, I want to make the playoffs for the sake of making the playoffs because I've only seen three playoff games in my life. But like, this team is not ready to. The way the defense is currently constructed with plywood at linebacker.
yeah,
Like, I don't know if this is the
basically the
defense you
whole
want.
team's not ready for playoffs. Like
No,
if we really think about it, like
I mean,
offensive
I don't
line
know
is
how serious Postic's injury is. You might be able to get him back in the next few
yeah.
weeks. Um,
God, that would be nice to see an actual healthy line. Well,
yeah,
healthy,
like
healthier.
the only I think I think they're obviously gonna be favored next week. The biggest test for this team, funny enough, is going to be the Commanders. The
Yeah,
Commanders are playing well. They play
they
good
are.
defense. They run the ball. They don't score a bunch. They don't they don't have a whole bunch of yards on offense, but
Yeah, and it's on the road, so yeah, that's
and it's on
definitely.
that shitty field.
Oh my God, if Deshaun gets hurt,
If Nick Chubb gets hurt, I riot.
I know. God, does that feel terrible? But yeah, yeah. So we'll talk about that as the season goes on here. We
Yeah.
got 3 games left,
Look,
and
we're going to go there's a chance we're going to wake up on Christmas morning or Christmas Eve at least with the Browns still alive. How many times in the last 2 decades has that happened? Like 4?
basically, yeah.
Like, if
God, what was it?
the biggest statement for Kevin Stefanski and this team, I think, was made partially last night and is going to be made over the next 3 weeks. The team didn't give up yesterday. Teams in the past would have folded and lost to a backup quarterback.
True. Yeah, definitely. Oh, we
This
see
team is still playing.
Duck Hodges still is in my mind.
This team is still playing.
Yeah.
It's worth something. It's not worth a ton, but it's worth something.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll talk to you. Wednesday or Thursday, whatever works for
later
us.
this week.
Yeah. About the Saints game, final home game of the season, Christmas Eve.
Probably the final trip for Andy Dalton to Cleveland.
Yeah.
If you have anything you want to say to him, go ahead and get it out.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll talk to you later in the week, and yeah, it was a good game, and the Browns won, so all that matters. But yeah.
And today we're all Panthers fans.
Yes, we're all Panthers fans. Your AFC or NFC South, or what are they, North or South?
NFC South.
South could be champions. Who knows?
They could be the leaders of the NFC South by the end of the day, and that is horrifying.
That is horrifying. Oh man, what a weird season. But yeah, thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll be back later in the week, and this was another edition of the WFNY BrownsCast. Thank you.